morning. Good morning. Realized that, we are, at our heart, we're a maple syrup family, and we have built our channel on maple syrup content. And there's been a lot of, if you've noticed my new hat, sawmill or soon to be sawmill content coming up. And if you're a maple fan, I get it. It's not what you're there to watch, but I'm having fun. I realized that I've never made a video of how we bottle syrup and the equipment and what that looks like. I started our business with my dad in our little sugar shack in his backyard with a D&G canner, held like 7 gallons. It was a filter canner, ran off propane, and we used to fill maple syrup jars individually with a valve, like you would almost like a ball valve exactly like a ball valve. It was a ball valve, and you'd open and close it. And you'd fill 1 bottle at a time, and that was a long day, if you had to fill some significant orders. There's not a lot of maple syrup bottling footage out there. There's a handful of companies that do what we do, and there's not a lot of public documentation film. Like, you really can't say, I want to start a maple syrup bottling line. And, the ones that I've seen, every one of them's different. There's lots of ways to bottle syrup, and everybody has some unique ideas. So wanted to show you how we do it, and I'm sure there's better ways, and this is just what we call our large bottling line, and hope you enjoy it. So here you'll see we flip boxes over. There's actually a kind of a knack to it. We call this our dump table. We dump the glass, and you'll see we line up all the bottles with the handles trailing. And that's so we always have the front and back label in a consistent place in the bottle. You can see there's drive belts that will push the glass bottles through this air rinsing unit. It's made by Carleton Helical. And what it does, there's no moving parts on the inside. It just flips the glass over. It's like a monoblock that flips the glass over. You can see it tilting there as it goes through. You can see it's tipped upside down, and what happens is we hit it with deionized air and actually vacuum out any cardboard pieces or pieces of glass. So this is a very important step in our bottling process. You want a clean glass bottle free of debris, and it flips it back over. And this technology's been around. It's mostly used for can lines for beer companies. And so here's a little yellow sensor. That's a backup sensor. So when the glass gets to that point, the feed belts will stop pushing glass through. And that's so you don't push it all the way through the filling section. But near Philadelphia, PA. So this is a counter. And this counter counts how many bottles enter the fill station. And there's a gate that closes, a gate that stops at the beginning, an entry gate and exit gate. Neck locator comes out. Fill heads dive, and these are overflow fillers. That's the entry gate I'm pointing at right there, and that's the exit gate. What you'll see is the exit gate will open, entry gate will open, the exit gate will close. Oh, and what you see here is, it happens, emergency stop button, bottles fall. It happens sometimes, and if you catch it, you save yourself a lot of headaches. We were going to edit that out, but it's like, no, this is the real world. This is how it works. So she's cycling it again. Bottles will fill. This is what they call, so there's your entry gate. There's your exit gate. So after the bottles are full, exit gate will open, entry gate will open, exit gate will close, and there you have it. Neck locator comes out, fill heads dive, and these are overflow fillers. So in the glass bottling industry, you do what is called a cosmetic fill. Cosmetic fill means that you are filling to an exact line every time, So when they sit on the shelf, they all look the same level. The truth is, glass is imperfect. And if you put the right exact volume in a glass bottle every time, it would look like they're all filled at different levels, and that's because glass is imperfect. So with an overflow filler, what happens is you will get a consistent fill level. The consumer looks at it and it always looks the same. But the truth is every one of these glass bottles has a little bit more and a little bit less. You have to hit the 12 fluid ounce mark. That's just how overflow works. It fills the bottle and actually overflows out the outside into a reservoir. So each bottle will be at a consistent fill height. So it looks good on the shelf, but if you actually used a volumetric filler, you would get a lot more complaints, because if you put exactly 12 fluid ounces in, they will all be at a different height. So here's the capper. The bottles are going through a spacer there. There's a spacer drive motor, and above that is a bowl, and that is where you pour the caps, and it actually vibrates the caps up to the top of the bowl, and it hits the chute, and you'll see there's drive belts that'll actually pull the bottle through, and the cap will barely hit the top of that lip of that bottle, and the drive belts will pull the cap through, and it can go back to back. I mean, I can watch this thing forever because we've hand bottled so much maple syrup. It's kind of amazing. So you want that cap to always be touching something, and it goes through. The first spindle starts it, and each spindle drops down a little bit, and the last one's a torque. So those little ridges on the edge of a cap is called a knurl, N-E-R-L, and you don't want to tear the knurls off. That means you got too much torque. That's actually an inversion there, where you hit the cap with hot maple syrup. So we'll actually flip the bottle over. The hot maple syrup will hit the cap and sanitize it for any potential mold spores. So this is canning process, but once you open it, please put it in the refrigerator. So here we have a washer. This is something that we learned from the sauce industry, because it's really not necessary in the bottling process. I think we have unintended benefits. Initially, it was to cool bottles down to prevent stack burn. So here we just have a couple garden hoses that are rinsing the top of the bottles. So the caps, sides, any potential fingerprints. These are called air knives. They run on compressed air and will pull the droplets off. So they're all set at an angle and offset so they aren't canceling each other out, and will actually blow the droplets out. Then it travels down. That's a neck bander if we ever need one for orders. There's a little ink jetter. That thing is actually shooting ink onto the bottle, which has a lot code timestamp. This is the labeler, which I can watch for days because this thing's amazing. This is a front and back label that we do for a customer. This is a private label deal, and awesome customer. Glad we have them, and you can see how fast it can label. It's just an amazing labeler. So then this is the pack off table, and you can see Natalie's just doing an inspection. Here I am monkeying around with the camera. As you can see Fragile there.
Fragile. That must be Italian.
And that's the box taper. .12 ounce, and there's configurations for the pallet. So here's Daniel throwing the sticker on the case, and he will stack those onto the pallet. You can see the team working together. It's definitely a team environment. It's definitely everybody kind of chips in, and somebody gets backed up, you run over and help them, and they do the same for you. Oh, so here's the forehead filler. As you can see, the forehead filler, this is when we run a manual line. You can see right here, you can set the levels. And this is an overflow filler too. So we bought one of the first ones in the United States off of Carl A.P.E.S. We now have 2 of these things, but you control your flow rates in the back with those red valves. But you want to set your levels based on time. So that's what that timer is for. And then you don't want to overflow a ton. So how to set this forehead filler, if I really like this machine, we have run thousands and thousands and thousands of bottles through this. So here's how we label those round bottles. You actually use the handle, utilize the handle to position it. So here Daniel's positioning these bottles, and we can do front, back, wrap, trapezoidal, and it feeds the label. When you run clear labels, you really need, this is called a trunnion. It will hold that bottle and really kind of stretch it over the bottle so you don't have air bubbles. It's really cool. But you want the handle to the right, so you can see, how they do this. This is our portion control bourbon barrel aged maple syrup. We can run 27,000 of these in a day. It's just amazing how fast the line can fill these little 3.4 ounce 100 milliliter bottles. You can see that Natalie has a specific way she fills these cases. These are going to Maple Street Biscuit Company. If you haven't had a chance, check them out. I know what you're thinking. Nate, that's a fine looking hat you have there, and I'm glad you noticed. I did get a new hat.